Hey everybody, Scott Stevens here. Welcome back to Scott's Weather, where I do a daily or at least weekday look at some of the weather around the states and out west. That is the story, is the heat wave that's in progress with numerous dozens upon dozens of record highs falling for 16, 17, and probably 18 August before all is said and done. In that heat, there's a little monsoon moisture out there. And I've got thunder overhead. In fact, not but 2 minutes and about 40 seconds ago, straight ahead of me, and likely within a half a mile, we had a lightning strike, and that got the dogs up and going. Like, where's a safe place? And well, trust me, inside you're about as safe as you're going to get. Before we kind of roll into that, I want to kind of throw you back to yesterday as another perspective. Also, wherever you're watching this, the show is streamed there as well, and where I kind of hit the climate crisis and did a little bit of introduction of how I got into this from my history of global warming, where I was and when I began TV, and the Yellowstone story. There's just a lot in that show. And then I kind of introduced Nikola Tesla and how that may be playing with or is playing, depending on who you discuss this with, whether it's his tech or not. There's something going on in the skies. And then we have to roll on into greenhouse gases, global warming, and then the narrative that's in place now. We've got a few scientists that have woken up. Let's just say they're woke, and so forth and so on. So that's worthy of a review, because I'm going to expand on it tomorrow in tomorrow's show, simply because there's so much there, and it is a story and a subject that takes a little bit of a digesting. Yeah, that thunder is crazy. I had one strike, Tracy, that was just straight out that window, and I promise you that I saw it, and I'm like, oh, that was close, and within 2 seconds, it was rumbling through the house. So overseas, Australia, that's where you are, Tracy, a little bit of snow in some of those higher elevations in the Australian Alps. I bet you didn't know there was such a thing. But the Australian Alps getting a little bit of snow. They started with some early and then had quite a lull, and now they're beginning to pick up a little bit more. We've got Hurricane Genevieve, a very powerful Category 4 storm off the west coast of Mexico in the Pacific. And from 3D imagery, it's quite got the eye wall and the structure. It all looks good. There's the Baja right there. We'll be watching that over the next couple of days. The Mike Seidel, in regards to the Death Valley's 130-degree reading on Sunday, the WMO said all indications are thus far that this is a legitimate operation. And we'll click on that story, as you would too if you wanted to read the thing. But the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, kind of like we have a World Health Organization, it's like we can have all of these local, independent, national things, but then we have to have some global structure. Whether you like it or not, these entities do exist. And so it's like the nations can't do their own sovereign thing, but nonetheless, they're on the way. And the crazy thing is the data inside the WMO, or inside that Sirius, how do I say it? That observing site in Death Valley is an old glass thermometer. Crazy, but that's as far as evolved as they are right now. All right, so meteorologists with the National Weather Service have done additional surveying the damage of last Monday's derecho event, finding a peak estimated wind speed of 130 miles an hour at one point in Lynn County, and that's why the corn was down. So just laid flat, 130 mile an hour winds. That's a strong Category 3-4 hurricane. All right, this is something that's worthy of a little bit of a rabbit hole jumping. Right now, I'm more concerned about the vast growing anomaly in human consciousness. Yes, but there is something going on as this Southern Atlantic anomaly beginning to separate, coming into two parts. So there's something happening down there, and it might resolve itself quickly with us understanding the processes that are letting that anomaly persist and evolve, or it might go on for decades without us knowing the source of this. But nonetheless, it exists, and it is a concern of NASA. They have to prepare satellites that pass through that lower part of the atmosphere, because we're losing the protection of the magnetic field from outer space with that event underway. Here's the record highs across the western states, at least as forecast by the 18Z model, the noon model, and all over, very, very similar to yesterday, from near 100 at Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Running at 100 is, I believe that's probably ISN. That's Williston, North Dakota, right there, ISN. And southern Idaho, Utah, Arizona, all the same cast of characters. And then it's just as widespread tomorrow. And then into Thursday, getting a little more compressed because we'll get some cool air coming down from Canada and spreading a little bit of relief into the central and northeastern U.S. for a time. And then even into Monday, it's a little more sparse. So the heat wave will eventually draw to a close. And with that, the record highs will close the book on a whole bunch of new ones of those. All right, we just had a little asteroid zip by the planet. Asteroid 2020 GQ or QG flew past Earth at just 0.02 or 200ths of the lunar distance. This was this was Sunday on August 16th, the closest NEO flyby on record. NEO is near Earth object, and it impacted the orbit of this thing. So we'll have to recompute that, and I'm sure they're already doing that with great haste. The curious thing is this thing was not recognized until it was 6 hours past Earth. We saw it on the outbound part of the journey where we had sunlight on it. We did not see it inbound. So this, had there been an impact, it would have been a complete surprise. So major flooding leaves 65 people dead, more than 220,000 homes affected. And this in the Sudan. There's some really kind of cool pictures in here. And a lot of it's just farmland that is green. And this story has been repeated time and time and time again as the rains are just with us. And it comes at a time where you like to get the crops in. Rain is good to keep them growing, but it just becomes too much rain. And then with COVID on top of it, it just becomes a bit of a challenge. And the infrastructure already third world-ish when it meets, a river that is swollen as we're seeing here, it just becomes too much. And so they're going to need aid ultimately before all is said and done. All right, record high yesterday, 127 in Death Valley, 33 at Peter Sinks, Utah, and 33 4 miles southeast of Gould, Colorado for the two cool spots in the nation. Yeah, that is a well-formed hurricane. And you did not know there were Australian Alps, did you, Karen? I didn't either until, last year. I just had never been. There's not a whole lot of news that comes out of Australia. So you learn about the geography as it crosses the news stream, as we do, most things. All right, two areas of disturbances. One of the models this morning said, nah, don't worry about it. The other, the more recent one, says, okay, maybe this is going to turn into something. And then Genevieve out in the Eastern Pacific, being the big girl on the scene right now. Here are the temperatures as the top of 3 o'clock, where the hundreds were widespread through California, the Four Corners area, not so much in the mountains of Colorado because of the thunderstorms I'm looking at right now, and then hot from the high plains of North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, up into Canada. Let's refresh this because we might be deep enough into the 5 o'clock hour just to see anything crazy. I don't see anything that's separate changed too much, but the California grid is the one that's just kind of moaning and groaning. When you take, not to be political, but the reliability factor of coal, gas, and steam, those kind of things you just shovel more in and they go versus winds that are variable, sun that has clouds pass by. It's really strained the California and the grids in the Southwest, this kind of a heat wave, because it's about the worst it's been since 88. 94 was bad too, but 88 was crazy. And we weren't so green at that point in time. The Atlantic, here's the Atlantic, the one disturbance out in the Atlantic. It looks so, but it'll come into more favorable conditions. And then the one way south of Puerto Rico, again, it's just a kind of a mess of thunderstorms without a whole lot of organization. The biggest, baddest weather, Florida and the far southeastern Gulf Coast, maybe some in the Ohio Valley where we've got some thunder showers. And then we're finally getting a little monsoon activity popping. It is late in the day. And then the center of high pressure is right in here. You can kind of see the circulation going right through there. I find myself under these guys over here in the San Luis Valley. And there's a lot of smoke from these fires. So these thunderstorms are a blessing and a curse. More of them than not have been started by lightning. And so you have to wait until the fire is ignited, and somebody spots it. And that's the risk, is that it might go 2 minutes without somebody seeing, somebody alert and aware and recognizing that is not a campfire situation, that it is a lightning strike. And then time to get crews on site to begin the suppression activities. And with a lot of crews active, it's going to require the very, very localized crews because the mobile ones are out and about and on the big fires. So it's managing those resources is quite a job. It really, really is quite a job. And you got to give those guys respect for doing the work that they do under the pressure they do with risking the firemen, risking the loss of life, risking the loss of infrastructure, and then the natural resources. It really is quite a harrowing job. There's Genevieve off the coast, visible imagery. Let's see if I can't zoom this in on this tab. On this, I don't want to save the frame. Yeah, there we go. Let's see if that stops the looping or not. But that's the eye as it continues to kind of really be very well organized. I think that's as far in as I can go, but it looks like we can almost begin to see some geometry in there. And this has fascinated me in the 2005 and 6 season. The geometry that showed up in the middle of these hurricanes was just, it was sacred geometry. And that led me to kind of consider that we were really looking at some kind of resonance technology in place for that. Big high sitting out west where you've got the orange, it's where the jet stream is higher than normal, meaning the atmosphere is swollen because it's warm, and that extends from the southwest all the way up to Alaska and across the North Pole. It kind of weakens as we move into the weekend, and that's going to allow most of the country some kind of a cool off. We saw that indicated in the forecast record highs, and then it tries to build back right now, about a week from now, hour 150 to 170, and then we'll see if we get this far out. But doesn't look like we're going to get this kind of heat anytime soon. And even if it does, we're going to be deeper into September, and then the much, much cooler weather showing up across middle and northern Canada. So those growing seasons will begin to see some touches of frost in their northern provinces. And for better, for worse, that's what the future is. Okay, Genevieve, a close call to Cabo San Lucas in about 2 days' time. Likely see 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds, maybe gusts a little bit higher than that. I would almost want to say I hope that they get a rain band or two, because in the desert, a rain band or two could be a good thing. You can end up with some water and if you're a farmer, in retention ponds. If you're in the city, it's all going to go down the gutter and washed away down the drainages. But they really kind of rely on, and some of the higher elevations down there, getting some of these just close glances from these tropical events. And then a little bit beyond a week out, one of these tropical disturbances moves into Texas, and then another one tries to spin up right here. You can kind of see that's just a little bit of elongated or stretched isobar that closes off, and then it tries to work across southern Georgia. But more interestingly, and probably more impactful for people, will be this very cool high pressure. Very cool with very strong north winds. See that little red 546? I don't know if you can see that right there. But that spells frost in the upper part of Michigan. So the end of next week, if this were to verify, if this model were to be correct. So a little bit of cool fall weather is definitely on the way, and certainly so for Canada. That's just kind of how it looks. This is tomorrow, and then into Thursday, showers, fire weather out west, and then the occasional shower and thunderstorm into the southeastern states. So that's kind of where we are. The heat is going to. Did I leave that up for you, Garen? There you go. Yeah, I do like summer weather. It's my favorite. It is seriously my favorite. Summer, and then on into fall, September, October, especially October. And then, if you get the nice weather into November, that's good for me too. All right, guys, Scoob is not going to be great in Cabo. Yeah, they'll definitely be having some water churn. So you'd want to go inside into the Gulf of California, inside that bay where it's protected, and it's really just kind of becoming a sanctuary. So we're limiting the fishing. Kind of have to do that in wide swaths of land. If you can keep out the Chinese trawlers that just scoop it all up and then cart it back to sea, regardless of the sovereignty and the limits that are in place. They're fishing fleets. They've been off the coast of Argentina. They're just now off the Galapagos. Is now 200-300 boats just waiting for people not to pay attention. And then they just go and sweep with their nets and take it all. They don't care. So I'm a firm believer, a knower that karma plays its way out, and all of these activities in the world are coming to a resolution or a crescendo, depending on what accounts are due and are coming due. It all is playing out on the grand scale of things. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for another look at weather, see what's happened, see if we can break any more records or any outstanding weather records. Maybe some locations will bust out their all-time highs. Otherwise, it's the heat's on until the end of the week. All right. Have a great Sea of Cortez. That's it, Karen. Sometimes you just can't pull that geographic area. And I'd been looking at it at the maps too. So that just doesn't make any sense at all for me to forget that. And I'll see you later, Karen. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.